Good day. I want to continue making videos based on my articles and Substack posts. And this one is based on a follow-up piece I posted on Substack in follow-up to my previous piece on male complaining. So this is the equivalent video of the second piece. I was very gratified by the response to the original piece. It seems to have touched a nerve. I did expect some pushback, and most of the comments were very supportive, though a few friends did write to me, did have the kindness to write to me privately and express some of their reservations and even disagreements. So I wanted to make another video and respond to all of the comments, or the general tenor of the comments, because that was the purpose. I was trying to be provocative a bit. When people agree with me too much, I feel like I'm not doing my job, which is to push the envelope, to make people think, to get outside their comfort zones and their outside the box and assorted cliches. So let's talk about the highlights about some of the comments. One reader asked if I'm dismissing the work of important writers and activists, and he named several. If I'm dismissing those as whinging or whining, and if so, then I would have to dismiss my own work, because I've written 3-4 books, depending on how you count them, on these issues in the last 25 years, and probably a couple hundred articles. So no, not in the least. We all, I make a distinction between between information and opinions. And information, we all need to be informed. So the more information is produced and is spread, the better. And well-supported thoughts and arguments based on facts and aiming at solutions. That's precisely what I was calling for in the original piece. So no, I have nothing against that. Unsupported opinions, however, are quickly become tedious for everybody. I know I hear a lot of commentators who I agree with entirely, but if they just give me opinions rather than information, then I become bored very quickly. And besides, if my strategy, the marriage strike, using the marriage strike as leverage to produce political and legal change, if that's to be successful, someone needs to call attention to it. Someone needs to interpret it. Someone besides the traditional conservatives scolding the men. So even if millions of men, boycott marriage, boycott women, boycott families, you still need a core of spokesmen, so to speak, to speak up and say, this is the reason for it, and this is what we have to do if we want to solve this problem. So no, it's very important. Pardon me. Some readers raised the cliche about politics being downstream from culture and insisted we must first change the culture before we can change the legal system. I hear this a lot. I've heard this in mainstream politics from traditional conservatives. Frankly, I think it's sorry, I got interrupted by something. Frankly, I think it's an excuse for doing nothing. And that's mostly what the traditional conservatives do, is nothing. And that's why they've lost to the left over the last, especially over the last 5 years, but really for decades before that. You and I, and even 10,000 other people, are not going to change the culture anytime soon. And besides, the politics and the legal system are part of the culture. We can change those. A small number of people can change them. And we need concrete, specific goals, limited goals, not utopian fantasies. Nobody talks about changing the culture before we can prohibit abortion. Nobody talks about changing the culture before we can enforce the freedom of speech. or the other freedoms of the Bill of Rights. So why do we have to change the culture here first before we can act in more practical ways? So I don't have much sympathy for that point of view. One misconception that I should have clarified myself in the original piece: father custody has nothing whatever to do with fathers being presumed to be the superior parent, as one reader wrote. The father can manifestly be the worst parent, and the principle still holds. And in any case, no government official like a judge should be in the business of deciding which parent is the better or superior parent, unless that parent has committed some legal infraction. So it doesn't presume that, it also does not presume, as the reader continued, that, quote, single fathers make better parents than single mothers. There's actually some evidence that they do, in fact, but there's no need to marshal a bunch of statistics to prove this, because that's not what the case for father custody is based on. Father custody, the point about father custody, and the reason for it, is because it will keep families together, and it will allow children to be raised by both parents in an intact family. Mother custody means discarding fathers and raising the children as single mothers. Father custody does not mean discarding mothers. It means that the mothers cannot leave without forfeiting the children, at least not without some very weighty legal grounds. Otherwise, if they want to leave, they can leave. They leave with the clothes on their back, and that's it, which is the way legal contracts should be enforced. One friend wrote that I ignore other important issues facing men to focus just on child custody. I do believe that child custody is by far and away the most important, both because of its cruelty and because it's connected to all the others. What could be more cruel than having your children taken away? Workplace hazards, job discrimination, circumcision, being assaulted, domestic violence, as they say. These are trivial by comparison. And that's probably why the general public really, to be frank, doesn't care about them very much. But child custody, on the other hand, is not only is it connected to a lot of other issues, such as false accusations and child support and paternity fraud and parental alienation and property confiscation, not to mention numerous civil liberties violations. Okay, but it also comprises the essential weapon that empowers the entire feminist matriarchy, and that weapon is control over the reproductive system. Okay, control over the reproductive system. That's why Daniel Amneas says that, quote, the linchpin in the feminist program is mother custody following divorce. Pull that pin and the feminist structure collapses. And I believe the entire radical feminist and sexual agenda collapses with it. Explaining why that's the case is more than I can do here, or even in a Substack piece. But my latest book, in fact, all my books explain why. Amneas explains why in his book, and unraveling the many strands in the Gordian knot of feminism is an impossible task. But dealing with the custody issue definitively, that will cut the Gordian knot in one stroke. And by the way, none of this precludes dealing with other issues anyway. But I do think that when fathers get off and men get off in those other issues, they should connect it back to feminist ideology and connect it back to child custody, because that's at the root of the feminist power. Likewise, implementing this does not mean marshaling superior arguments, and it does not require that we change the minds of politicians. We've had superior, unassailable arguments for decades, essentially rooted in Anglo-American constitutional law and basic legal principles of legal integrity and soundness, and we still achieve nothing. So I don't think we have to change the minds of any legislators. I don't think we have to even have very much legislation. I don't think we have to create a lot of new organizations, which, frankly, we don't seem to be capable of doing. and which don't do much anyway. Frankly, once they start making money, um, they forget about the goals that they're supposed to be undertaking. No, father custody. The beauty of this is that the marriage strike provides the leverage for men simply to demand father custody as a condition of marriage. We either have father custody, reliable father custody, or I won't marry you. It's as simple as that. There's no need for an argument. There's no need to raise your voice. There's no need to, have no shouting, no political agitation, no strident invective against the feminists or the globalists or the politicians. No tearing our clothes off and rampaging down the streets, as the feminists like to do. You can't reason with crooked politicians. You can't reason with political ideologues like feminists any more than you can reason with, naughty children. And there's no need to try. You just exercise quiet, firm, dignified, disciplined, concrete, constructive action, and that's what men should do with everything. That's what fathers should do with everything. And several readers pointed out that when women start demanding the change will happen perhaps quite quickly. So the marriage strike is the leverage, not a lot of politicking. And one final point of importance that I should have made originally, because it's essentially the point of my new book, and it's a point that readers of this Substack should perceive, I think, fairly readily. But I fear that attempts to make constructive points often get overshadowed when we dwell too much on the evil deeds of the feminists and the globalists and the Democrats and the liberals and the communists and all the rest. And this is why I think we all derive naughty pleasure. I do myself from jeering at them. But I think it costs us in terms of getting on with the business at hand. I believe that, and the point is this, I believe that we may achieve more today by highlighting the inadequacies and the failures of conservatism, especially organized, professional, mercenary conservatism, than by dwelling on the deeds of the left. The glaring fecklessness and cowardice of the left on this issue, on the issue of the courts and the welfare and the child custody, this reflects their similar uselessness on all the other issues that they deal with. That's why they've lost. That's why they lost to the radical left 5 years ago, and that's why they'd been losing before that for decades. And it's why they can't win now. It's why they're being displaced by the MAGA Republicans. If we can communicate this, that issues like child custody are a microcosm of the larger conservative failure throughout our political system, then I think people will stop seeing these issues as trivial or private and start realizing that this has momentous implications for our entire society. The old poem about the hand that rocks the cradle is the power that rules the world. But until we do this, I think we will be ignored, not only by the traditional conservatives, we will be ignored by the MAGA Republicans and the Trump administration. I think you can see that. One of the impediments you can see in that is personified by Elon Musk, whose own children were apparently destroyed by the divorce machine, and yet he has this enormous influence, and he doesn't use it to speak out against this stuff. Instead, he has these fantasies about visiting Mars instead of defending his own flesh and blood. But perhaps that's a subject for another piece, another video, another time. In any case, I'd like to thank everyone who contributed to this discussion, for helping me to refine and to make my arguments more precise. So until next time.